Melissa right now.
Yeah, and if you kind of keep an eye on the models here, we're probably less than 3 hours out from it making landfall in Jamaica.
Yeah, it is going to pick up its forward speed once it starts to move over the island, which is good, but boy, is it going to have some devastating impacts for Jamaica, unfortunately. We're really thinking about all the people, not only the residents, but all the visitors there. I've been seeing videos on social media of people, you know, my age that were there vacationing. They're in these Airbnbs on the side of hilltops. They're stuck. And I just don't think they really understand the full, you know, brevity of what's coming
and if you're just joining us, Category 5 here.
Yeah, major hurricane. So let's talk about the latest on this. Really just, when I tell you, my heart is just so heavy for all of these people, because this is the strongest hurricane to ever hit the island of Jamaica once it makes landfall within hours of right now. Here it is, the storm, a monster barreling towards Jamaica, still moving fairly slow though. 5-mile-per-hour forward motion there, 175-mile-per-hour winds. That pressure down to 901 millibars. That is new from overnight. That makes it the 8th strongest hurricane in the Atlantic Basin, according to pressure. Let's take you through the model data. We are going to continue to see bands of heavy rain. You saw that in those live images before we went to break. And the thing is, these outer bands, this storm is extremely large. We're talking over 200 miles in diameter. That is just going to pull tons of water inland, especially on the eastern part of the island. We're looking at storm surge 9 to 13 feet over the next several hours. Expected to make landfall around 9-10 o'clock. Models have slowed the storm down just a little bit, but regardless, later this morning expected to make that landfall on the western side of the island, west of Kingston, east of Negril, bringing very heavy rain that's going to result in catastrophic flooding, the potential for some landslides as well. And that is the issue. You have all those homes and residences that are on the sides of mountains, and then you have that threat for landslides, something that I'm sure we're going to see images out of once the storm passes. The storm is going to pass north later tonight, again, going to pick up speed, make a second landfall in Cuba in the overnight hours, and then move into the southeastern Bahamas and continue as a hurricane as it moves into the southeastern islands of the Bahamas, where that storm surge and that flooding threat will continue not only for Cuba, but some of the islands of the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos in the coming days. Here at home, we are just, again, so thankful for some beautiful weather, and we have a couple of fronts to thank for that. One weather system off the coast. We're going to get some drier air on the backside of that. Another front incoming tomorrow. Dry right now, some patchy fog north of Tampa, but look at the humidity drop through the day. Not going to be necessarily fall-like, but I think you'll notice that lower humidity. We'll get a little increase in moisture ahead of our front. That'll give us a low-end rain chance for tomorrow before the air really dries out and that fall-like weather builds in for the back half of the week. Let's take you through Futurecast. Partly cloudy skies today, and then tomorrow here comes that front. That will bring us a chance for scattered showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder, mainly as you're winding down for the night. This is just after 8 o'clock. It'll move in from the coast and then weaken as it moves inland. So that coverage of rain right now at about 40%, mainly for those of you who live along the coast. Thursday looking mostly dry outside of a stray shower. And then here's where it gets good. 40s north of the city on Friday morning. 50s for the Tampa area and areas south. You're going to need the light jacket heading out the door on Friday morning. And trick-or-treating hour still looks great for the kiddos. 70s getting ready. Trick-or-treating hour in the 60s. Yeah, it's going to be nice. Your 7-day forecast will show you cool off back half of the week. Morning in the 50s, highs in the 70s. We'll bump back into the low 80s by the end of the weekend.
This morning, we're continuing to monitor Hurricane Melissa, the massive storm expected to make landfall this morning. This is satellite imagery of the Category 5 hurricane. It slowed down just a bit. We were expecting it to make landfall within the hour, but now it's looking like it's still a few hours away.
Yeah, in Jamaica, authorities have implored residents to evacuate to nearly the 900 shelters all around the country. While infrastructure in Jamaica's urban areas like Kingston have improved over the years, rural areas really remain vulnerable because of this storm. Let's send it over to meteorologist Courteney Jacobazzi. We're kind of talking about that today, the infrastructure there. And a Cat 5 probably not going to do too well in this, Courtney.
Right, yeah, and this storm is expected to make landfall somewhere near an area called Black River, and we were kind of looking at some of the imagery in that area, and that is a town right off of the river. So naturally, you have a river, tons of water moving in onshore, because it is going to be on the eastern side of this. The storm surge threat there arguably extremely high, so hopefully the people in that area did heed any warnings, because no doubt there's an evacuation order in that town. Here it is, Hurricane Melissa, latest advisory coming in just as of 8 a.m. from the Hurricane Center. Pressure didn't change, wind speed didn't change. Now starting to move a little faster at 7 miles per hour at its site set on the southwest coast of Jamaica. Already experiencing those outer rain bands, heavy pouring rain. Look at how large this storm is. We're talking over 200 miles in diameter. And so now we're talking rain bands on this huge storm pulling inland. That's pumping in tons of water, and that's leading to that extremely high storm surge threat. We're talking storm surge in excess of 13 feet expected on the eastern part of this island. Let's take you through Futurecast. Here's the latest timing. Yeah, around 10, 11 o'clock expected to make that landfall as of some of our most recent model data. But until we get there, the wind is going to pick up. Hurricane force winds expected within the next hour. That storm surge threat will only heighten over the next couple of hours on top of the flooding rain that could lead to landslides. This is a fairly mountainous region. There are a lot of homes that are in mountainsides. That's just not a place you want to be. Hopefully those people also heeded some of those evacuation warnings. Clearly plenty of shelters open for the people on that island. Taking you into Tuesday night, the storm then moves into eastern Cuba, making another landfall just before midnight before moving into the southeastern Bahamas. Still as a hurricane, bringing hurricane force winds. The storm surge threat also still present, flooding threat, and that storm surge threat does extend into the Turks and Caicos through the middle of the week. Something to think about if you had travel plans there at all in the near future. Here's a look at just some of the headlines. This is the first Category 5 hurricane to make landfall. That is the strongest to hit Jamaica. Life-threatening flash flooding, landslides expected today on that island. Hurricane force winds again expected within the next hour. Here at home, we have a beautiful forecast to look forward to, and we are going to be so grateful for that. We did get a little bit of rain yesterday, especially north of the city. We picked up 1 to 2 inches of rain in some spots, and we're waiting for more. Low-end rain chance from a front that's out to our west right now. That will knock on our door tomorrow. Until we get there, the humidity drops a little today, as do the temperatures. Highs in the low 80s today. It'll be a comfy day. You want to get out on the water, moderate chop on the bay, seas at about 2 feet. So not a bad day to do some boating, especially with the lack of rain expected today. You won't have to worry about those thunderstorms that some of you had to deal with yesterday. Taking you through Futurecast, we'll be dry through the first half of the day as you're winding down around 8 o'clock. That front moves in, bringing the best chance for rain along the coast. That front weakens and dissipates as it passes east of I-75. And then Thursday, a breezy day. The humidity drops, will be mostly dry. And Friday morning, we wake up in the 40s along the Nature Coast, 50s across the Bay Area. First time we were in the 50s since mid-April. Get the jackets ready. 7-day forecast shows dry today, that evening rain chance tomorrow, and then highs drop into the 70s back half of the weekend to the start of the weekend. We'll warm back into the 80s on Sunday, and we'll turn those clocks back. Extra hour of sleep on the way, everyone, going into Sunday. All right, now it's time for a check of the roadways.
Take a look at this video. The eye wall of Hurricane Melissa yesterday. Hurricane hunters, this extreme wind, it created such an intense turbulence that the U.S. Air Force hurricane hunters had to abandon the mission.
Yeah, and according to the National Hurricane Center, the crew was forced to turn back after hitting severe turbulence in the storm's southwestern eye wall. As we send it over to meteorologist Courteney Jacobazzi, that side of the wall, Courtney, must have been pretty bad.
Yeah, they don't do that very often where they have to turn around because the storm is just that powerful. But that is just a testament to Category 5 Hurricane Melissa barreling towards the islands of Jamaica. 8 a.m. advisory showing winds at 175 miles per hour. This is going to make it the strongest storm to impact this island and make a landfall. 901 millibar pressure. That is the 8th strongest hurricane in terms of pressure. Starting to move a little faster. I do expect that trend to continue as its steering current along a front is going to move this storm a little quicker, but not without leaving some devastating impacts for the island of Jamaica. Right now, about 30 miles just to the southwest of the Black River area in Jamaica. That is a populated town. More than likely evacuation orders in that area. Hopefully people heeded those warnings because the National Hurricane Center saying that life-threatening flooding, we're talking life-threatening storm surge, all likely. The potential for homes to be inundated with water or taken from their foundations. This is a storm that needs to be taken very seriously, and hopefully people did heed those warnings because now we are already seeing those hurricane force winds coming onshore in Jamaica. And we are expecting this storm to make a landfall within the next couple of hours. But in the meantime, this storm's extremely large, so all this water and those outer rain bands just getting pulled from the Caribbean onshore. We're looking at 9 to 13 feet of storm surge from Black River over onto the eastern side of the island, the southeastern side, of course. Heavy rain will bring really heavy flood totals. We're talking 15 to 30 inches of rain, and then this storm will move off to the north, impacting Cuba later this evening around 11 o'clock, and then move into the southeastern Bahamas, bringing hurricane force conditions, the threat for storm surge and flooding to the islands of the Bahamas, and even the Turks and Caicos going into the middle of the week. In fact, hurricane warnings in effect now for the southeastern Bahamas and eastern Cuba. Hurricane watch in effect for Turks and Caicos in anticipation of this storm. So we're going to continue to track that for you all throughout the day as we get updates from the National Hurricane Center. But we are thinking about all the residents and, of course, the tourists that are there that weren't able to get out. Here at home, our forecast looking a lot nicer. We have a low pressure center off the coast. That's going to bring our wind out of the north, giving us a nice day. Another front incoming middle of the week. Today, our humidity is actually going to drop with that northerly wind. It'll be a little more comfortable, nice and warm today. Our humidity will increase just enough for a rain chance tomorrow night before dropping off big time back half of the week. We have some beautiful weather on the way to round out your work and school week. High temperatures today in the low 80s. It'll be a nice and warm day. Great day to get out on the water, although a little more of a bumpy ride with the moderate chop on the bay. Seas 2 feet. So you want to get some boating done today. It overall won't be bad, especially since you don't have to deal with storms like you did yesterday north of town. Taking you through Futurecast, let's talk about that rain chance on the way. A front will bring rain, maybe a few rumbles of thunder, mainly along the coast after sunset tomorrow night. So it's not really going to impact your day much. And then that cooler, more breezy air ushers in for Thursday. We also look mostly dry on Thursday. Halloween for the kiddos still looking great. 70s as you're getting ready, 60s for the trick-or-treating hour. Your 7-day forecast shows that rain chance Wednesday night with highs only in the 70s back half of the week. We'll wake up in the 50s Friday and Saturday, bumping back into the low 80s by Sunday.
All right.